RPMbassy. Now, a little while ago, I did my top 5 and a dud of David Bowie and his albums. But there was one album missing from it that would have been at number 1, but I just could not find my copy. The album I'm talking about is David Bowie's Low. So it's going to get its own video today. Now, this album, I've got some notes. There's so many notes about this album. As I said, I couldn't find my copy, so I just had to go and get the reissue. I now have it back in my possession, which I'm so happy about, and I absolutely love this album. It would have been at my number 1. So Low is the 11th studio album by David Bowie, or Bowie. I keep getting kind of told off by people it's Bowie, not Bowie. Bowie. It was released on the 14th of January 1977, and what a good year for music that was. And that was on RCA Records. It was the first 3 collaborations with producer Tony Visconti and the musician, the genius that is Brian Eno. And this was the start of what was known as the Berlin Trilogy. I was going to do a separate video on the Berlin Trilogy, but I might do it in, some point in the future when we forgot about the videos I've done already. But I love the Berlin Trilogy. So the sessions for Low began in France, I believe, in September 1976 and ended in October at Hansa Studios in West Berlin, where Bowie had moved to with Iggy Pop. I think he just produced his album at that particular time. So they were kind of there. So they were influenced by German bands such as Tangerine Dream, Neu, Harmonia, Kraftwerk, and Low features Bowie's first ever exploration into electronic and ambient styles. If you know this album, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to talk about it in a second. Side 1 kind of consists of like short, direct, avant-garde pop songs, as we know, kind of Bowie. But the B-side is more kind of ambient, more kind of instrumental. And there was only 2 singles released from this album. And they were, which is one of my favourite tracks, is probably my favourite tracks, Sound and Vision, which was a UK top 5, and Be My Wife. Was Be My Wife strong enough to be a single? Probably not. There was better tracks on here. Breaking Glass, Speed of Life, but we're going to talk about some of the tracks in a minute. RCA did refuse to release this for about 3 months because they felt it was going to be a commercial failure, and how wrong they were. And it did reach number 2 in the UK charts and number 11 in the US. And then obviously 2 singles come out, which were top 5 hits and all that. So that was quite good. But at the time, people didn't really rate this album. But it's not till years later. It's always appearing now in kind of like the top albums of all time. And, it's been reissued several times as well. I don't understand why I don't have the reissues. I did have the original. I'm a bit kind of worried because I don't know where that is. Because I did... move a couple of times from London down to kind of the southwest, and I know some of the records went missing. I think I put them in a pile to sell by accident, or take them down to record shops to sell, and I think they've kind of ended up in there by accident. But I'm sure I've seen it since. It's probably hiding in 80s pop or French house somewhere, but I will find it at some point. But I needed this to buy the video. But it has come out numerous times on really good kind of reissues and stuff. I remember it did come out in a box set a couple of years ago, but I just missed that altogether. Also, basically, Bowie was working on the soundtrack for The Man Who Fell to Earth. He worked with Bowie on the 1969 album Space Odyssey. So Bowie was asked to do the soundtrack to it, and obviously Bowie was in there as an actor as well. But he withdrew, and it was this album basically. He withdrew it once he found out there was other people that had been commissioned to do the kind of soundtrack. So he kind of felt a bit pissed off about that, so he withdrew that. And after this came out, he did send a copy to the film producer saying, hey, this would have been the soundtrack to your film. They missed on that big time, because it's a great album. It would be a great soundtrack to that film. I love that film as well, and Bowie's so incredible in that as well. So how this kind of came around, in 1976, Bowie caught up with Roxy Music's former keyboardist and artist Brian Eno backstage. The two had met. I'm just reading stuff from here from the internet. They had met occasionally since 1973. After leaving Roxy Music, Eno had released 2 ambient albums, and the second one, Bowie was absolutely loved. And because of that, he asked him to go work on this album. And again, they were into the same kind of artists like Neu, Kraftwerk, all that kind of krautrock stuff they were really into together, so that kind of influenced this album heavily. So the sessions did start on the 1st of September 1976. The working title for this album, which I found quite interesting, was called New Music, Night and Day. I mean, what a great album title. But I do like Low. Very good. As I said, it's part of the Berlin trilogy. Now, what's unique about this album, as a producer, was the drum sound. Now, Low is noted for its unusual drum sound. Davis, one of the guys in the band, did play the drums, but Visconti processed using an Eventide H910 harmonizer. So he used to play kind of the drums through it, and it was a commercially available pitch shifting device which would alter the pitch of a sound without changing the speed. I did read a little thing here when Bowie asked Visconti, what does it do? He just replied, it fucks it with the fabric of time. I love that. What a great time. I mean, you can hear some of these tracks, especially on Speed of Life, Breaking Glass and Sound and Vision. You can hear that unique kind of drum sound. And a lot of producers try to replicate this kind of years later, but that's what it was. It was the Eventide. I want one now, after reading that. Now, moving on, before we kind of talk about the tracks on the album, I'm just going to talk about the artwork. I absolutely love this artwork. This was done by George Underwood, which is Bowie's school friend, who designed the artwork here. It was similar to the artwork to Station. It kind of had that same kind of look, which I love the artwork for Station to Station, but this is brilliant. I love this. It features an altered still frame with a man who fell to earth. But this came out after the film came out, so there was kind of no conflict there at all. There was no, this is the soundtrack to this film. It's not. It came out kind of quite after it when it first came out. So he's seen as a character from the film, Thomas Newton, wearing a duffel coat set against an orange background. His hair is also the same colour as the background. As I said, The Man Who Fell to Earth was out of theatres by the time Low's release. And the design choice was not to promote the film, but to show the connection between it and the album. I think that was kind of Bowie's finger to these film producers, saying, hey, this is what it could have been like, and what a loss it is for them. So we kind of spoke about the artwork and the kind of behind this, but this has always been my favourite album. I was a massive Roxy Music fan, a massive fan of Brian Eno. So I was quite young when this came out, but I just love every track on this album. I especially love Breaking Glass. My favourite is definitely Sound and Vision. We all know that. It's been used in adverts for years and stuff. Weeping Wall, Subterranean. So you can see where a lot of these kind of song titles have been used in like band names and things, like Breaking Glass, the film. They definitely got it from here. I can feel it. Speed of Life, Be My Wife. As I said, I'm quite surprised they released that as a single. There's other better singles on here. So on side A, you've got 7 tracks because they're kind of like, quick kind of pop songs. And then side B, you've got 4 tracks, which are kind of the more ambient kind of instrumental tracks. And so good. I mean, I read a lot of information about this album and the kind of recording techniques. But with the artwork itself, they kind of kept it exactly the same. The orange background, his hair, great logo. I love the use of colours here, like the oranges and the yellows. Absolutely love it. And the back is great because it's like the original, because it didn't have the original. It's got that kind of orange, but it's also, the track list is an actual sticker. That is a sticker, and that was exactly the same as the original. Inside, you do get a one-page thing with the track titles. But what I like about this, I think this is what they should be. A lot of people should be doing this a lot more. I know we do it when we kind of release our albums. We kind of use the instruments that we kind of use. We use 808s and 303s and 909s. And I love listening to that equipment. So people listening to the music know this is done with the old school kind of... doesn't make it sound better, but it's just good knowing that you need to put a lot of time and effort into a track if you're using these old analog keyboards or sound processors, and I kind of like listing that equipment. And it's not about showing off, it's just saying, hey, look, this is what we use to make this. And I love it here because they've got on piano, Mini Moog, the Chamberlain. Chamberlain is a great piece of equipment. You've also got David Bowie using percussion piano, Chamberlain guitar, synthetic strings, on Mini Moog. So it was kind of like vibraphones. So it was kind of using the same kind of instrumentation all the way through, but it was definitely electronic, kind of heavy. And it's mixed at Hansa by the Wall. So it's brilliant. So that's just the kind of track listing on the 5 and 1. Now, when I bought this, I mean, it's got the original on the vinyl. It's just a black vinyl. It's got the original RCA kind of label that came out with the original, so that's quite a nice touch. So it definitely is a reissue. It's quite a new one. But inside, I got this, a little card. Now I don't know if that is. It looks like this was in the original, release, and they kind of can keep it authentic. They kind of printed this, put it inside. So you've got the David Bowie fan club, and then you've got like all his albums inside. You've got an address where to send $5. So this is definitely from back in the time. They've just done a reprint to give it that kind of authentic kind of feel. But that's quite a nice little touch there. So that is my all-time favourite Bowie album. It should have been number 1 in my top 5 and a dud when I did Bowie quite a while ago. And that is Bowie's Low. If you haven't heard this, check it out. I guarantee this will be your favourite Bowie album. And I'm talking about David Bowie, Low. Thank you very much.